Hello guys, and welcome to my 5th and last wave of Ben 10 clay figures. Today I have a whole new wave of these clay figures to show you guys with awesome characters, and most of them turned out well. I'm very proud to bring you guys the finale of this series, and it's been a good run. So without further ado, let's move on to the figures. Now our first clay figure we have right here is 11-year-old Iguana. Now, this character never actually makes an appearance in this show. He's mainly like a rough concept for the Iguana that was originally going to appear in the series but never did. He was, however, in the Ben 10 Omniverse video game, and he looks exactly like this, pretty much. So, I think the figure turned out very well. He looks very much like the actual character. He's the humpback kind of thing right here, as well as the 3 fins along his back, the small gills, and his face looks very similar to that of the other Iguana figure, which I made in Wave 3. His legs are very similar as well. The reason his toes are kind of on the side here is because they actually he fell down the oven and I had to glue his leg on back the way it was supposed to be, but his toes were moved. Anyway, he has his Omnitrix symbol right there, and yeah, it's pretty much 11-year-old Iguana. I think this figure turned out fairly well, except for his back leg, but other than that, it turned out very well. Up next, here we have one of the coolest Ben 10 characters, as well as one of my best clay figures, Ghost Freak. Now, Ghost Freak in the show, he made his appearance in what turned out to be a very bad episode of Ben 10 Omniverse. However, his appearance made the entire episode worthwhile. His character turned out very good in clay form. I think I got his curls and everything just right, along his head and tail. You have his little creases along which I used with black lines in this case. He has his little chain design all around his body, which I found really cool for them to include in the series. And yeah, I think Ghost Freak turned out very well. I actually ended up making him out of leftover clay, and he still turned out fairly well. He has his Omnitrix symbol right in his chest, as well as one eye on his head. And yeah, I think this character turned out very well in the series, and I'm very glad with how the clay figure turned out. Up next, here we have Energy out of suit. This is basically Energy's true form. He is one of Ben's aliens, as you can see by his Omnitrix symbol on his lower torso. I really like the idea of how they included this in the series, how he's able to come in and out of his suit. And yeah, I like this clay figure very much. He turned out very well, and he was a very simple character to make. His head turned out fairly good. You can tell it's the Energy from the Omniverse series. And for a quick comparison to his old clay figure, I accidentally made his clay figure a bit taller, but then again, I think in the series, as he gains more energy, he becomes bigger in size. So, I mean, you can just use that as an excuse. But I still think this clay figure turned out very well. And yeah, up next, now here we're going to be doing something a bit different. Here we have one of my first Ben 10 clay figures, Blocks. Now before, I had the character Blocks be able to switch out his hands for a hammer, which I made out of clay. Now this hammer is supposed to be similar to the one that he can make in the show. And yeah, it basically fits in as a replacement for his hand. Now I showed you, if you remember correctly, I showed you guys that you can remove his legs from his body. Now the purpose of this was that I may make small additions to Blocks to make his powers seem more like they are in the show. Now here we have these 3 main blocks. They're used to kind of extend his waist, so you can include them in the center, and you can just keep extending them through these 3 until he has a very long waist for him to stretch out in. Another feature which I also included was along his hands right here. We have a few things that we can now add in. First up, we have a small net. Now this net was seen in the first episode of Ben 10 Omniverse. I think it was seen in a couple others. You can basically fit it right into the little holes in his arm, and you can, like, you know, hold things in it if you want to. Our next thing which I made is a small shield. Like, now this shield was very, like, it was challenging to make, mainly because it had, like, it consists of very small clay tiles, and yeah, I had to get the design just right, like it is in the show. You have like the little pattern along the shield and everything. But yeah, I think it turned out fairly well. And of course it fits onto Blox's arm as well. And now last thing, or no, second to last thing that we made is these two little handguns. These are shown a lot in the Ben 10 Omniverse series, especially after Ben obtained Scourge on his Omnitrix. He allowed him, when in other alien forms, to have these little Blox guns. Anyway, these guns are, well, they're fairly easy to make. I'm glad they're able to fit into his hands as well. And the last thing we have here are these simple blocks as well. Now, as you can probably imagine, these are used to extend his, arms. They're all fairly around the same size, and they could all fit into his arms as well. And so what you would do is you would sort of attach them like this, and then attach his fist at the end to make it seem like he is extending his arm or somewhat. And these are the add-ons that I made to blocks. Up next, we have Lodestar. Now this character I've been waiting to make since I got the right amount of clay, and I've been waiting since I first saw him in the first Ben 10 episode. In the first Ben 10 Omniverse episode, he made his appearance. He doesn't appear that much in the series, yet I've always kind of loved this character. He has a very simple personality, and I like his magnetic powers. He has a fairly simple design. It was kind of easy to make. I made him as well out of leftover clay, much like the Ghost Freak clay figure. From the legs up, he has a very simple design. He has the little claw hands right there. And yeah, you have those little yellow streaks along his chest and limbs. As you can see, his head is also very simple. It's supposed to be held up magnetically, but since this is a clay figure and not actual magnets, I had to use a small little white clay piece right here. He also has his Omnitrix symbol on his chest and those two little like prod things on his shoulders. And along his back he has a very simple design as well. Nothing too special there. And yeah, that's pretty much Lodestar. I really like this character very much, and I can't wait to show you guys the next character, which is one of my favorite Ben 10 characters ever. Big Chill is, he's always been one of my favorite aliens. I love his powers and all that. So it was only right to make him into a clay figure as my last wave. So, this clay figure was fairly simple to make. I actually made him out of leftover clay as well. I feel like I got almost every design in there. He has like his little pattern on his chest kind of thing going on. All those little things on his limbs right there as well. His head is also fairly simple as well. He has the Omnitrix belt. And a little feature which I tried to include but I wasn't able to finish it really was his wings right here. Now you might wonder why his wings are technically a feature. Well, that's because they are able to pop off. Now the wings are all come off as one separate piece, and I think that they turned out very well. They look very good with Big Chill as a figure, and yeah, I really like how the wings turned out. Now the reason they are supposed to come off is because I was supposed to make another piece, which is a cloak for him, like because his wings in the show are supposed to fold into a cloak. But since I was unable to include that, I wasn't able to completely finish the feature, however. But you can kind of imagine what it would be like. It probably would have just been like a giant, like, kind of cylinder-ish kind of thing. But, you know, it would have probably turned out well. And yeah, this is Big Chill, one of my favorite Ben 10 characters. Up next, we have Now here we're going to move on to the villains of this wave. And we're going to start off with one of the lesser known villains, Crashhopper. He appears in 3 episodes of Ben 10 Omniverse as a new character, and he is the slave to Soooooo, aka Ghost Freak. Anyway, Crashhopper in the show, he does not play that big of a role. He's more of like a henchman kind of character. I still felt the need to make him. Also, I made him out of leftover clay and all that also. So, he has a very simple look, yet I kind of like the way his limbs turned out right here. I like his little claw features and everything. He has very simple clothing, I guess. And yeah, I got his tail right there. And yeah, that's pretty much Crashhopper all in all. Up next, here we have one of my favorite Ben 10 villains, and this is not just because he is the same species as the Ghost Freak alien, but he is also like a very cool villain. I like his personality and everything. His name is Soooooo, also known as Ghost Freak. Mainly because in this story he escapes from Ben's Omnitrix and then wreaks havoc on him, pretty much. Tries to wreak havoc on the world. I really like how his clay figure turned out, and in the show he seems to know a lot more about the Omnitrix. He has like street smarts, so like basically when he's in a fight he knows that Ben is eventually going to time out, so he just has to wait till then to strike. So I kind of like that about him. He's like more of a smart villain. On the back I kind of have like his little scales or whatever. I'm forgetting the name. Like they kind of jag out in all directions. His little creases like Ghost Freak, they go like all around and they're represented by black lines. He has this little eye in the center, and I like how his head turned out right here. His little hoodie kind of turned out well, his hood. And his head turned out okay, I guess. His mouth probably could have been better. His tail turned out very good as well as his hands. Now for this character, I decided to include a small little weapon for him. Now this weapon it was very simple to make. It's just his little scythe, I guess you would say right here. This is only used in the Omniverse series, and I thought it was kind of cool that an alien would kind of have like a melee weapon. But yeah, you know, it turned out very good. And yeah, that's pretty much the scare. Up next, here we have Lord Transyl, one of the newer characters in the Ben 10 Omniverse series. In the series, he's basically your stereotypical vampire, pretty much. He's nothing really too special. He's just your vampire guy who's basically an alien. In the series, he doesn't really play that big of a role, as for he's only shown in 1 episode of the series. Yeah. His clay figure wasn't really too hard to do. He turned out worse, kind of, than I thought. But, you know, he still turned out fairly well. You can definitely tell that it's Lord Transyl. He has a little cloak right here, his little belt kind of thing right here, his little wrist things. As well as the 2 little, I can't remember the names, like, I don't know, prods or something that stick out of his shoulders right here. And his head turned out decent, I guess. And yeah, it's basically Lord Transyl. Up next, here we have one of the older kind of aliens in the Ben 10 Omniverse series. These are 2 villains called the Burrito Brothers. You have Octagon Burrito and Rhomboid Burrito. There's nothing really too special about these characters in the show. There's your standard kind of bad guy, pretty much. Their characters are also fairly simple to make. They have pretty much the same belt. I like how the belts turn out. The suits right here turn out very good as well. And yeah, the belt goes all the way around. His head turned out very good, as well as his head. I like the way his hat turned out too. His jacket turned out very good as well. And yeah, that's basically Burrito Brothers. Their weapons right here I made for them are fairly good. These guns are actually like really big. I kind of like the design of them in the show. And yeah, those are his 2 guns right there. And for Rhomboid's gun, it's just your standard little blaster right here. Nothing too special right there. Up next, we have Exoskull. Now, a little backstory on this character's creation in clay form. I actually made him a long time ago before he made his big appearance at the end of the Ben 10 Omniverse series. So I made him a little bit smaller than he should have been. And yeah, so like I didn't really think that much of this character, that's why he doesn't look as good as he could have. So yeah, he pretty much only made a cameo appearance before he made his big appearance at the end of the series. But yeah, that's basically the backstory on this character. His clay form turned out fairly good. I think I got most of the detail in there. He has his little screws on his arms and everything. He has his little knee pads and stuff like that. Up here you have the little chest design, kind of like right here. The things that go around his shoulders, and his head turned out fairly good. You can tell that he resembles like a rhino and everything. He has his little jet kind of pack right here, like his jet pack, and his little horn. So yeah, that's essentially Exoskull. Not too much going on there. Up next, we have the Forever Ninja. As stupid as the name is, he has been around since the original series of Ben 10. He's essentially a robot that works for the Forever Knights in the show. In Omniverse, he makes his first reappearance, and yeah, his characters, he turned out okay in clay. I couldn't include that much detail, so it kind of just looks like mainly waist up, just kind of like a blob of red clay. But I tried to get as much detail as I could. I think this arm turned out pretty good. I used like a darker version of red clay for it. He has his Forever Knight symbol along his shoulder, and that turned out very good. I like the way that looks, and he has this little gun right on his wrist, and his helmet turned out fairly good as well. You can definitely tell it has that little like knight kind of feel, or ninja kind of feel. And yeah, that's essentially the Forever Ninja. Up next, we have... Now here we have two Techno robots. These guys made their first appearance in Ben 10 Alien Force. They made their other appearance in Ultimate Alien. And now they are in Omniverse. I really kind of like these characters. They come in a variety of colors and looks and such. They're pretty much like your generic robot. The clay figures turn out fairly well. They're both pretty much identical. And yeah, they have very simple designs. And you may be wondering why their hand is missing on both their left sides. Well, actually right down here. You can attach them back, but the reason I had detachable hands is because they kind of form into like a laser gun, much like in the show. Now, you can also take off their right hands as well, right here, and right here, so that you can have both guns on both hands. And their back is fairly simple as well. And yeah, it's essentially the Techno robots. I'm happy I was able to make these characters. And yeah, up next we have... Here we have Ultimate Echo Echo. Now this is Albedo using the alien form of Ultimate Echo Echo. Ultimate Echo Echo has always been my favorite of the Ultimate Aliens, and I'm glad they brought him back in Omniverse for Albedo to use. Now, this character, I tried to incorporate as much design as I could. I have all the black details that you have along him, all the black lines and such. You have the Omnitrix or Ultimatrix symbol on his chest, as well as little sonic discs around him. And his head turned out fairly good as well. It looks much like it does in the show. And if you turn around right here, his back is very simple, as are most of my clay figures. And yeah. But I do have, actually, a small feature on this set, or not set, clay figure. Now here, you can take off these two sonic discs, as well as these two. Now these are kind of just for feature purposes. You have like the little mini sonic discs that Ultimate Echo Echo can eject, and that produce sonic waves. So like they can produce sonic waves from multiple angles and make the enemy go unconscious. Now you have kind of like two different sizes. As for two are supposed to fit into his shoulders, the other two are supposed to fit into his lower legs. And yeah, they have like the little kind of faces, I guess, design on them. This is how they turned out in the show. And yeah, I think they turned out very good. I've always kind of loved this character, and I love how he turned out in clay. Up next, we have... Here we have Vilgax, Ben's first main villain of the entire Ben 10 franchise. He's been there since the beginning, and time and again he has almost been Ben, but not quite. I decided to translate this character into clay form because why not? He appeared in Omniverse, and he's been a fairly good villain to watch fight Ben. Nothing too special really with him. His design came out fairly well due to how he was positioned in the oven, though he did turn out kind of slanted. His tentacles turned out fairly well, like they have all little spots on them and stuff on the detail. And yeah, his head turned out very good as well, and everything. You have the little green light fixture that goes around his back. You have his back details, which actually turned out very good. I'm glad with how those turned out. And everything. And yeah, his limbs turned out fairly good as well. And yeah, it's essentially Vilgax. Up next, we have... Remember Bug Lizard? I made him a long time ago, and he has been the only Nemetrix alien so far. However, that is not the case anymore. I now have a few more Nemetrix aliens to add in with him. Some of them turned out good, some of them did not, but let's show you guys who I made. Now to start off, we are going to get the broken one out of the way. Here we have Dozer, the first Nemetrix alien to make an appearance in the Ben 10 Omniverse series. He broke into 10 pieces when he came out of the oven. Each of his legs, his main chest area kind of broke into 3 pieces as well, and his head broke off. But all in all, the character did turn out fairly good. I like how he did turn out, despite the fact that he broke. I got most of the detail in there, not much to include though, because he is a rock-based character, therefore most of his body is going to be the same color. His head though did turn out very good, and you can definitely tell it's Dozer. Now let's move on to the more better Nemetrix aliens. That sentence did not make sense. More better? Whatever. Up next we have... Here we have the predator of one of Ben's aliens, Ditto. But this alien is named the Pronuncian. That is what the species is called. And the reason I made 2 of them is because this alien is able to split, hence the reason it is being a predator of Ditto. This alien pretty much revolutionized the way that Kyber hunts. He is now able to turn into more than one Nemetrix alien at a time. And yeah, so this alien, it turned out fairly good. I like the way the clay figures turned out in respects to each other. They both turned out fairly good in the point where they both look pretty much exactly alike, mostly. On the back, I like how the tail turned out. It's supposed to look like it has the spikes and everything, and that turned out fairly good. You have the fur along the limbs, along the back as well. And you have the Nemetrix collar and his head right here. So yeah. The reason I'm starting off with these guys is because they are some of the lesser known Nemetrix aliens. And yeah, up next we have... Here we have an even lesser used alien. This is the Ultimate Pronuncian. Now the Pronuncian now has an evolved form. I didn't like how they really brought the ultimate form aspect into the Nemetrix. However, at least it does look cool. I even include the pink to make it look like he has more of a flesh kind of look in it. That's why it has a variation of different colors. His head turned out fairly good as well. He has very long teeth, which is kind of an over-exaggeration. But yeah, back here you have the spikes along his fur, and as well as the awesome-looking tail. I like how it kind of hangs down like gravity actually has an effect on everything. Now it is unknown as to if this alien splits or not, which is why I made it with only 1 form, as opposed to 2, which I do with most of my splitting aliens. And yeah, it's pretty much the Ultimate Pronuncian. Up next, we have... Here we have Vicipus. Now I'm really happy with how this Nemetrix alien turned out, mainly because it's basically like exactly how it looks in the show. I got most of the details right. I got his tentacles to bend in the way that they do. They turned out very good that way. And his head is like spot on. I really like the way that turned out. His Nemetrix color turned out okay. His head has little scales and spots and everything. And yeah. But I suppose it was a very simple character to make, and I really like this alien. Too bad he only appeared twice in the show. Anyway, up next we have... Here we have Hypnotic. Now this alien, it has the power of like, of kind of like mind controlling your victims into seeing their best fantasy. So basically, you give them a daydream while he basically attacks you. He's missing his little eyebrow pieces because they fell off and I lost them. So that didn't turn out so well. However, the rest of the character did turn out fairly well. I like how I was able to get the 4 wings in there. Those turned out fairly good. You had the 4 spots along the sides. And yeah. Over here you have his Nemetrix collar, which also turned out fairly good. You have his 4 little dangling legs right here, which dangle when he flies. And yeah, his face turned out fairly good as well. I'm really happy with how this character turned out. And the next Nemetrix alien we have is... Here we have Tarana. Now this character is very fragile. His legs all fell off when they were cooked in the oven. However, the character did turn out fairly good after I glued them all back together. His head turned out very good. You have that kind of like psychotic kind of look to it. I really like that aspect of this character. How it's just kind of like your worst nightmare kind of thing. In the show, he is the predator of Ball Weevil. And yeah, there's nothing really too special about him. His legs are very simple. They're just like one color in the shape of a banana or something like that. And yeah, I really like this look they have along the back. It really gives you like that bug kind of feel as well. And yeah, it's basically Tarantula. The next Nemetrix alien is... Here we have Musculator, the predator of Crashhopper in the series. And with this clay figure, he is essentially a big gray blob of clay. I did not make him hollow for some psychotic reason, and yeah, but his character took a lot of clay to make, mainly because I did not make him hollow, but he did turn out very good, and I'm happy with how all the design that was incorporated into him. I tried to get all the little like slime pouch kind of features in him, which is mainly how he's able to catch Crashhopper, because those like sacks are supposed to be very sticky and such, so they entice Crashhopper to hit them pretty much. His head turned out very good. It's kind of like spot on with the look and everything, the molding of the head. You have all the detail all along the back, and yeah, that's pretty much a Musculator. Up next, we have our final Nemetrix alien. Now, what better way to end my Ben 10 clay figure series than with my largest clay figure of all time. It might not have taken the largest amount of clay, but it did take a lot of time, and it is indeed the longest and the largest. It has 6 dangling legs, 4 main legs, Nemetrix collar, dinosaur-ish kind of head, like a Tyrannosaurus, hence the name Tarana Pete. This alien is named Tarana Pete, and he is the main predator of Humongosaur. He has little scales along the back, as you can kind of see right here. He's very fragile and he cannot stand. However, he did turn out very good. He is like spot on based on how he is in the show. His head turned out very, very good as well. And I'm very happy to end this series with this clay figure, as for he has turned out very well. So anyway, you guys, I would like to thank you all for watching. This has been probably one of my most successful series that I've ever done. Everyone's been sticking through it, getting thousands of reviews on these things, and I would just like to say thank you so much for watching, and every view means a lot to me, believe it or not. Please stay tuned for another one of my episodes. Like, maybe I might possibly, if they continue the Ben 10 series, I might possibly make more clay figures. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, please make sure to check out some other episodes of mine. I have 4 others besides this one. And yeah, I would like to thank you all for watching. This has been Ben 10 clay figures. I have really enjoyed making these clay figures. Probably spent hundreds of dollars on all these things. I'm insane. Anyway, thanks to you for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. And please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It would mean so much to me. And yeah, thanks for watching. And I've loved making this series every step of the way.